We have breaking news. The Steelers have officially traded George Pickens to the Dallas Cowboys for a 2026 third-round pick and for a 2027 fifth-round pick. Now, this makes things very interesting for the Steelers. They have a lot of mid-round picks in the 2026 NFL draft, and there's a lot of reports that the Steelers may move up in the first round, potentially to select a quarterback. We'll see if that materializes. As I record this video right now, you just traded your second best wide receiver to the Dallas Cowboys. And trust me, I'll talk about the Dallas Cowboys in this video as well. But let's talk about the Steelers for a second here. I understand why they made the trade, but at the same time, I'm very concerned about this team in the receiving room. You did bring in Robert Woods. Robert Woods is a veteran wide receiver. George Pickens had a lot of problems on and off the field. He was late to the game, especially against the Kansas City Chiefs, and he was getting into fighting issues. Fully understand that, but he's an amazing talent. He was able to go out there over the last 2 years and put up very good numbers with this organization and a bad offense. When we go back and Kenny Pickett and Mason Rudolph and Mr. Trubisky was a starting quarterback, we got to see George Pickens put up over 1,000 receiving yards on only 63 catches, 5 receiving touchdowns in 2023. He became the de facto number 1 wide receiver when you moved on from Deontay Johnson. Last season, 900 receiving yards, 3 receiving touchdowns. I was going into this season very excited to see DK Metcalf and George Pickens be in the same wide receiving room. And I know, crash out season, the potential for them to go out there and basically get a lot of penalties were there. But you're essentially back into a similar spot that you were in last season. And let me fully explain here. When George Pickens went down with his hamstring injury last year, Calvin Austin III was your number 1 wide receiver. You didn't have much depth behind George Pickens. You bring in DK Metcalf, you sign him to 5 years, $150 million. DK Metcalf has dealt with injuries over the last 2 years, especially last season, a knee injury. And he's older than George Pickens, and he deals with similar problems. And you can say, well, you know what? He's going to give 100% every single snap. He's had character concerns as well with the Seahawks. Now, it could be different with the Steelers. We'll see. But if if DK Metcalf goes down for a significant amount of time, you're still going to be in trouble in the wide receiving position. Calvin Austin III will be your number 1 wide receiver. Then Robert Woods. Now look at Robert Woods. Robert Woods is definitely on the back end of his career. He only had 203 receiving yards last season, 0 receiving touchdowns. You do have Roman Wilson, who is entering year number 2. He did nothing his rookie season. He suffered an injury in training camp. He pretty much missed his entire rookie season. And you have Scotty Miller. They're going to have to go out there and bring in another wide receiver. Besides having Calvin Austin III and DK Metcalf, you don't have much talent behind those wide receivers. And I'll give Calvin Austin III a lot of credit. He was able to come in last season. He had 548 receiving yards, 4 receiving touchdowns. He averaged 15 yards a catch. He's more so of a very good number 3 wide receiver than a consistent number 2. That's where you want to have him at. But it was a lot of smoke to his fire. Apparently, around the NFL draft, they were having conversations with the Dallas Cowboys back then, just a couple weeks ago, about potentially trading George Pickens. And George Pickens came out and he said that he wanted to still play for Coach T. He still wanted to play for the Steelers in general. And you just trade him away. I understand why you made this move. Because of his concerns on the field with his character. He was late to games. I fully understand that. And it says a lot about the Steelers organization with him moving forward. This team dealt with Deontay Johnson. They dealt with Antonio Brown. Now, I know George Pickens is no Antonio Brown in terms of talent, but you need to bring in another consistent wide receiver. That's all that I'm saying. And I hope it's not a situation to where they go out there and they trade for a wide receiver like Allen Lazard with the New York Jets. That's one of those situations where you're catering to Aaron Rodgers. You're trying to get a wide receiver that already has a chemistry with him. But it was very telling that you see Aaron Rodgers go to UCLA. He's throwing the football around the field to DK Metcalf. He never got to build up that chemistry just yet with George Pickens. The Dallas Cowboys, you now have a wide receiving core that consists of CeeDee Lamb mixed in with George Pickens, a true number 1 wide receiver on the outside. That's a very good situation for Dallas. And he's entering the last year of his deal. Now, Dallas doesn't have to go out there. You're going to have to pay him. He may have character concerns, but he's a hell of a player. And he's going into the best quarterback situation potentially of his career so far. Look at last season. George Pickens had to deal with terrible play calling with Arthur Smith. He had to deal with Justin Fields. And Justin Fields was solid at times. Wasn't the best passer. Then he had to deal with Russell Wilson. You're going over to the Dallas Cowboys. Schottenheimer, your brand new head coach. Dak Prescott has had a lot of good seasons in the NFL. And now he goes into a system to where the quarterback's going to give him the football as much as possible on the outside. And he's going to play primarily on the outside. CeeDee Lamb's going to be inside the slot. And they have Jake Ferguson at the tight end position. So this is a very good trade with the Dallas Cowboys. You're getting a very good player. It's just his attitude and concerns on the field. As the player aspect of things, I like the trade for the Cowboys. With the Steelers, I don't hate the trade. I understand why you did it. You just need to bring in another wide receiver to help out DK Metcalf if he does go down. That's all that I'm saying. And it seems like that they are gearing up for the future to potentially move up for a quarterback in 2026. The draft is going to be in the Steelers' backyard. So you have to do something. Even if you do bring in Aaron Rodgers, you need to bring in a young option long term. I know that they selected Will Howard late in the NFL draft. You can say there's a lot of upside there. The problem is this: Coach Tomlin and this administration, they've never had to go out there and develop a quarterback to the next tee. They tried that with Kenny Pickett. It didn't work out. They tried that with Justin Fields. It didn't work out. They went with a veteran quarterback in Russell Wilson. But as it stands right now, the Steelers, they aren't a terrible team from an offensive standpoint. Let's just say Aaron Rodgers does step into the building. He does come down. You're going to have a wide zone system with the Steelers. You're going to have Jalen Warren and Caleb Johnson. And Caleb Johnson is a very good running back coming from Iowa State. And we got to see him in that wide zone system for many years at Iowa State. And he looked very good. He's a true number one back. He averaged 6.5 yards a carry, 21 rushing touchdowns, 1,537 rushing yards on the season. And Jalen Warren last season, he was really going out there and he was outplaying Najee Harris in terms of explosive snaps. He averaged 4.3 yards a carry, 511 rushing yards, one rushing touchdown. The one thing that I can say about a Coach Tomlin team, they're going to always want to go out there and run the football as much as possible. So they're going to have to run this offense through DK Metcalf at the wide receiving position and through their running backs. Far as this offensive line, I'm higher on this offensive line than others. It's a lot of young talent. Broderick Jones so far has been a bust. But if you take him out the equation, you have Isaac at the left guard position. Zach Frazier, very good last season. He was not supposed to be the starting center. It was supposed to be Herbig. Mason McCormick at the right guard position. He gave you a lot of good production last season. And Troy Fautanu missed majority of last year, but in a couple of snaps he did play, he did look very good. And you know what the defense is all about. They're still going to have a top-tier defense in the NFL. You selected Derek Harmon in the first round for a reason. He was a top defensive tackle coming from Oregon. You have Keanu Benton, Cameron Hayward. Sound like a very good run-stopping defense already with the interior of their defensive line. And the thing is with Derek Harmon, he can play defensive end, he can play defensive tackle. You still have TJ Watt, one of the best defensive players in the NFL. 11.5 sacks last season, 6 forced fumbles. And he had a down year last year for his standards. And this is the one thing with TJ Watt. He's entering the last year of his contract. There's no excuses to not go out there and pay this man a lot of money for the next 2 to 3 years. You're not paying DK Metcalf. Well, you already paid DK Metcalf. You're not paying George Pickens. You just traded him away. So it puts more money into your pocket to go out there and to pay TJ Watt. And Aaron Rodgers came on the Pat McAfee show and he said, man, you know what? It doesn't matter. The money doesn't matter that much to me. I'll play for $10 million. Let's test that theory out then. You're not going to pay him top tier quarterback money. No one else wants Aaron Rodgers, it seems like. This is the only team that potentially wants him. You don't have to offer him a $50 million deal. So give TJ Watt majority of that money moving forward. He deserves that contract. He's easily been the best player with this team. And I expect over the next couple of weeks for them to give him a contract extension. He deserves it. You have Alex Highsmith, a very good productive pass rusher alongside him. He just has to stay healthy. When you look at the rest of the defense in terms of just the depth behind him. You do have Cole Holcomb at the interior linebacker position. Look very good. Nick Herbig, 5.5 sacks, 4 forced fumbles. He was able to come in and fill in very nicely when Alex Highsmith went down and he was dealing with his injuries. You have Patrick Queen, Peyton Wilson. Like I just mentioned, Cole Holcomb playing behind those players. The secondary, you have Micah Fitzpatrick, still one of the best safeties in the NFL. Joy Porter Jr. is your number one cornerback. So the Steelers, they have defensive talent. You just need to find someone else to play alongside DK Metcalf for the rest of the season. And let's go back to the Dallas Cowboys to top off this video. This is going to be very interesting, to just say the least. For so many years, we've heard them say they need to bring in another wide receiver to play alongside CeeDee Lamb. Jalen Tolbert has been able to work out. Kevontae Turpin wasn't able to work out. When they first traded Amari Cooper to the Cleveland Browns, it was a good move. CeeDee Lamb was ready to be that number one wide receiver. But you need to put someone else alongside him. The duo of CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens should fit very nicely in this division. And hell, you need firepower for Dak Prescott. Now it really makes that pick in the first round when you went up there and you selected Tyler Booker at the right guard position. It really makes it stand out now. You now have an offensive line with a bunch of young players. Tyler Guyton at the left tackle position. Tyler Smith at the left guard position. Cooper Beebe, center position. Tyler Booker, right guard position. A lot of young players. But this is how the Dallas Cowboys rebuilt their offensive line many years ago. You have to get younger there. Zach Martin just retired. And I said this on draft night. I love the decision to go out there and get that big Alabama guard and Tyler Booker. The only part of the offensive line that concerns me is Terrence Steele. He hasn't been the same player since he tore his ACL a couple of years ago. Before he tore the ACL, he was a very good right tackle. He has a lot of up and down moments. But if we can get this offensive line back to how it was a few years ago, if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, and you can go out there and run the football with the running backs that you have in the backfield. You no longer have Ezekiel Elliott, you no longer have Tony Pollard. And let's just be honest here. It's not like Ezekiel Elliott was coming in last season and he was able to go back there and give you very good production. He was definitely on the tail end of his career. And letting Tony Pollard go was a mistake. You were at the bottom of the league for majority of the season in terms of rushing efficiency. Rico did have over 1,000 yards rushing. Doesn't mean that he was a very good running back at certain points of times last season. He wasn't consistent. A lot of it was due to him and also due to bad offensive line blocking. But Rico was not a terrible player. You now have Javonte Williams. He's more so of a power running back. He's slower coming out of the backfield. And you drafted Jaden Blue out of Texas. Jaden Blue is a very speedy running back. Averaged 5.4 yards a carry. His longest rush on the season went for 77 yards. So you're going into a situation where you go against the Philadelphia Eagles, you go against the New York Giants. Tough defensive fronts, by the way. You have a power runner in Javonte Williams, and you have a speed back that can put his toe into the ground and bounce it to the outside. They're doing everything in their power to put talent around Dak Prescott, a new wide receiver, and a revamped offensive line. We'll see if Schottenheimer can be a good head coach. I'm not that high on Schottenheimer. But for all the crap that Jerry Jones gets, and rightfully so, this is a very good trade, in my opinion, for the Dallas Cowboys. If George Pickens doesn't work out and he's a crash out, you move off of him. And as far as the defense for the Dallas Cowboys, they had a lot of up and down moments last season. But now you have Matt Eberflus as your defensive coordinator. As a head coach, he's terrible. As a DC, I like him a lot. You're bringing back Dante Fowler, 10.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 1 interception. And you also drafted Donovan Ezraku, a very good productive edge rusher. Micah Parsons is one of the best defensive players in the league. 12 sacks last season, 2 forced fumbles. DeMarvion Overshown, we'll see how much of this season he's going to miss for this upcoming year. DeMarvion Overshown was a very good linebacker last season, but he injured his knee late last season. But he was a very good player coming off the edge, making interceptions on the football, coming back and making life hell for the New York Giants. They're going to need him to be on the field sooner than later. The secondary, it's a lot of young pieces back there. All they have to do is just stay healthy. Trayvon Diggs is a pick-6 machine. Can he stay healthy? Torn ACL a couple of years ago. Played majority of last season with a tear in his calf. You have Deron Bland. He's a very good player. Siobhan, that you drafted in this year's draft class, he would have easily been a first-round pick from East Carolina. Problem is, he's coming off a torn ACL injury. But he was a very good, productive player at college. We have Malik Hooker at the free safety position and Donovan Wilson. There's a lot of talent there for the Dallas Cowboys. You just play in a tough-ass division. That's the problem here. And can Dak Prescott be consistent enough? The man is making $60 million a year. He needs to go out there and he needs to step up. Trust me. But they have an unproven head coach in Schottenheimer, but this should help take him over the edge. I like the trade for both teams, but I'm more perplexed with the Steelers right now, and I'm scratching my head. I understand the character concerns, but Coach Thomas dealt with this before. But we'll see what happens with both teams. Hopefully Aaron Rodgers signs sooner than later with the Steelers. And as far as the Dallas Cowboys, you have a true number one wide receiver playing alongside CeeDee Lamb. And a lot of people will make the case, well, he's just a very good number two. The man put up over 1,000 receiving yards with Mason Rudolph, Mitch Trubisky, and Kenny Pickett. If any receiver can do that, put up over 1,000 receiving yards and only 63 catches, you're a true number one in my eyes. And that's just my opinion of things. But let me know in the comment section below who won the trade. And if I have to say right now at face value who won the trade, I'll say the Dallas Cowboys. They're getting a very good player while the Steelers are just getting mid-round picks. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, I want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God bless. Peace.